Join us today for a, I guess, retrospective look at the Star Trek films, primarily the 6 original series films, although I wouldn't be surprised if we would mention some of the others, but we're going to be focusing on the original 6. So that's where we go into Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, aka The Search for God. Now, this is where we find out that Spock apparently has a brother, Sybok, right? What was his name? Yeah. Now, he's a full Vulcan, though, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah. And, yeah. He is trying to find the god of Shakari at the center of the universe. And on some backwater planet that for some reason has a Federation, Klingon, and Romulan ambassador there that hang out at like some nightclub in the middle of some desert in the middle of nowhere, he convinces them all to join him on his grand crusade.
Actually, he has the ability to...
He's got some kind of empathic thing going on, right?
Well, yeah, he can like free people from their pain and suffering and all of that.
Yeah.
Now, kind of getting into the plot of the 5th movie, I don't think overall the plot is a bad idea. I mean, why not have a planet where God resides? Why not have a center of the universe? The problem is that I have with it is that, one, is that someone didn't just fly a ship through there at some point in time. I mean, it's space. You're not going to sell everybody. I mean,
Right.
There wasn't any reason really why no one had been there before. I mean, the Federation is an exploratory body of people. You know, at some point they're just going to be like, you know what, we're going to send a small crew in and see what happens. So there were just a lot of things that I think held it back. And I don't think it's so much that, you know, William Shatner directed it that made it bad.
Oh, actually, to that point, folks, I have to cut you off there, Jim.
No,
forgot to mention, the budget on this one was $27.8 million, so a little bit more than The Voyage Home, but the box office is only $52.2 million, which is half of The Voyage Home. So, but also, as Jim just mentioned, Shatner did direct this, and that's actually as a result of a contract negotiation where at some point along the way, Shatner had a clause included where whatever Nimoy gets, he gets. Nimoy had been allowed to direct a movie, I think it's The Voyage Home. And so Shatner got this one, and he got the idea of the plot, because he's the one that came up with the plot, the original version, which was far more expansive. He got it late one night watching a televangelist on TV, and basically thinking, what if there was a space version of this guy? You know, essentially. Now, his version had like planets that would be mistaken for heaven and hell with angels and demons, and like the origin of all these things from religious, I don't want to call it mythology, but you know, like what Christianity projects as like heaven and hell and things like that. And this would have been something like the origin for those kind of stories. And it was very expansive, but $27.8 million, even in early 1990s dollars, is just not enough to do that. So they had to seriously scale it back. And that's where we wind up with what we have. Which, to Jim's point, it's not a terrible movie by any stretch. But.
And I think that, again, just like I thought the original motion picture had a good plot, just having a good plot isn't going to make a good movie. You have to have a good story, you have to have a good narration, it has to have a good flow. And, you know, a few plot holes here and there, okay, but like I said, them not being able to fly through the Great Barrier when they just fly right through it with no hiccup at all. It needed to have more weight to why nobody had ever gone through there before. And then maybe Sybok had figured out some secret way, like the way to Exegol from
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. Exegol.
Yeah,
You know, that planet we've all heard of.
Oh, come on. From the
I know. I'm just saying, like,
from the rise. Well, you know what I mean, though. But a secret route that somebody
that you would have had to have learned by playing Fortnite. Right? That's what they announced that originally. But the Emperor wasn't dead. It wasn't even announced in one of the Star Wars movies. The movie just opens with them knowing the Emperor is not dead because it was announced in Fortnite.
But all things aside, I can still look past that.
Jim takes a far more positive view of the Star Wars sequels than I do. He knows that I'm nothing but negativity.
No. Hey, I have nothing but negativity on it as well. I thought The Force Awakens, while not a great movie, they could have salvaged it. I think it had us talking for 2 years about all these what ifs.
Oh yeah, I've said before, The Force Awakens, if it weren't the sequel to Return of the Jedi, or if it just weren't a Star Wars movie, it's a perfectly fine movie. It's got a handful of internal problems, but you can overlook most of them. But my big problem with it is it's Episode 7. That's my big problem with it. To Jim's point, yes. At the very least, we joked about who Snoke was. I was pulling for Porkins, but
No, I was pulling for the one kid from the Senate or from the council chamber room, the one that's like, Master Anakin, what are we going to do?
that would have been great.
But
yeah, anyway, back to Star Trek V.
no, and I think the opening scene, while a little weird, and I don't know if there's just some reason to get her, stripped down to do a provocative dance, but I'm like,
You don't want to see 50-year-old Michelle Nichols getting down?
there's nothing wrong with it. I'll just say that. It was all right.
For whatever it matters to folks here, that is actually a complaint about, I think it's Star Trek Nemesis, that some people are like, do we really want to see 50-year-old Riker and Troy getting it on here? Yes, is the answer to that. We couldn't see it in the TV series. People do it. It's a natural part of life. We may as well go ahead and show it.
But I think it started out all right. Yeah, the whole Spock having a brother, and it makes sense that Spock wouldn't really talk much about his, hell, just even getting to talk about his dad. He is a Vulcan.
Yeah,
even less about his mom.
It makes sense. I mean, Spock's he plays it close to the chest, So, hell, they never even mentioned the fact he had a sister.
I know. Discovery, no.
Oh, Discovery, the gift that keeps on giving when I want to complain about Star Trek. Sister named Michael, what a thing. But anyway.
So, the fifth one. The problem is that I honestly can remember just bits and pieces there. I do know
I
that
mainly remember the beginning and towards the end. The middle, I don't know what the hell happens in the movie.
Well, okay, so
It's them taking over the ship, but that happened pretty quickly, right?
Yeah, because after they were on when they invaded that bar, they got captured, and then Cyborg did his mind thing on them, where they were like, yeah, we need to listen to this guy. He's got some points there, or whatever.
Yeah, I guess a lot of it must have been the trip to the other planet, and probably debating things there.
But as I say, the bar scene though was very reminiscent of the cantina. It actually had actual other aliens in there that were first time seen there. I believe one was the cat-like feline aliens.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen it. I just know that the Federation representative is played by David Warner, and I think that's the first role he plays in Star Trek, but he plays at least 2 more.
One in the next movie, too.
He's Chancellor Gorkon in the next movie. And then in the Next Generation, he plays, I don't remember the guy's name, but he's a Cardassian. He's the one that's torturing Picard, trying to get him to tell him there's 5 lights. And I think he plays someone in Deep Space Nine, too, but I'm not sure. He played a bunch of roles. But the jump just straight from Federation Ambassador to Klingon Chancellor in the next movie, I know what I'll notice.
But no, yeah, you get to that. There was one emotional scene on the Enterprise where Cyborg's trying to take the pain away. So I believe he probably would have went and took Kirk's pain away from the loss of the son, or the loss of the Enterprise. whichever. But he does it to Bones, and I guess Bones always had this, I guess, thing for where he let his father die. And, like, I guess he found the cure like months after his father had passed, and it always haunted him or whatever. But yeah, I think Kirk and Spock were the only two that didn't go through that process. And wasn't there a Klingon bird of prey following him along as well?
That eventually factored into it, yeah. There was a younger commander, and towards the end, the Klingon ambassador had to order him basically to help Kirk.
Yeah, because they wanted to destroy the Enterprise so they could be like, oh, destroy the flagship.
Yeah.
Not realizing it's already taken over by...
Right. Yeah, I think the ambassador makes him apologize to Kirk at the end, if I recall correctly. But yeah, so they do find something at the center of the universe, which prompts Kirk to ask the most important question in all of fiction: what does God need with the starship? Turns out there's not a good answer to that question, because a pretty well crippled Cybok's faith in him. And Cybok hit him with the whole, "I feel your pain." What? You know, giant glowing face that can shoot lightning out of his eyes and everything. And Cybok tried to do the thing on him.
Well, I think he does.
Yeah, he does. And then I think the bird of prey ends up having to blow it up ultimately.
Yeah, they turned out, I believe it was a prison.
Yeah.
This creature, and that the Great Barrier was meant to keep people out. Which again, like I said, if all they had to do was say you can't fly through the Great Barrier, but Cybok somehow knew.
Yeah, if he had like figured out the secret, or like, oh, we have to hit it at this exact speed, or like there's a hole like right there kind of thing, you know, something. Or like we have to wait for the celestial alignment. I know it happens every 2,000 years, and it's going to happen like right now. You know, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, there was also going to be while they were on the planet fighting the giant god space head. There were supposed to be rock creatures. The original budget had rock creatures.
Yeah.
We didn't get any of that. It is.
No, this movie sounds more and more like what the original Dune was supposed to be like. Have you ever seen there's a whole documentary on it. This guy, Jodorowsky, was supposed to film it, and he had the rights, and he wanted to make some weird changes to the plot. I don't even know if he ever actually read the book. Like, he just kind of knew the plot from someone telling it to him. But he had like all kinds of bands lined up to do the music for the movie, like House Harkonnen was going to be, I don't know, for argument's sake, I'm going to say Pink Floyd, because Pink Floyd is going to be one of the sets of music, and like the Emperor, you know, is going to be like the Rolling Stones, and, you know, those are just examples. I don't remember the exact bands. I do know that Pink Floyd was one of them. We have each of the houses, each of the groups, one of the bands was going to do their music so it sounded distinct and everything. And he had convinced, I believe, Salvador Dali to play the Emperor, because he just kept having all these outrageous demands, and finally he agreed to them. And his big plan was, I'm just going to film all of his scenes in one day, because the Emperor's not in much of the movie. But yeah, this you should watch it. It's called Jodorowsky's Dune. It's a whole documentary on it. Like, this movie would have just like changed filmmaking as we know it. And so I kind of get that impression from some of the stuff for Star Trek V, that like it would have just been just a monumentally different movie. It would have been an experience, you know.
Yeah, and like I said, it just budgetary constraints and different things like that. It just was the wrong time for it to come out, and just needed a little bit more work, a little bit more writing. There is one funny continuity error in the movie where they're jetpacking up, or not jetpacking. They got the rocket boots, and they're in the turbo shaft of the Enterprise, and they're rocketing up.
Yeah, because that's the one that starts off with them at Yosemite or something like that.
Yes, because
Kirk, Spock, and Bones are on shore leave at I think it's Yosemite. I could be wrong.
Well, it starts off with just Kirk and Bones, because Kirk is climbing up the mountain, and Spock flies up to him and ends up catching him because he
falls. Yeah.
But no, there's a scene in there where they're flying up the turbo shaft with the rocket boots, and like one there's like multiple times where like multiple floor numbers go by, and then they like go by the same floor again, and then they have like 90 decks, which the Enterprise only has like 24, 25 decks.
Yeah.
So it's obviously way more, but I mean, obviously it wouldn't be as interesting if it was just like, you know, real quick shoot. But I don't know why. They made the decks taller, and it would have been fine. But now but like the numbers.
Better than they're like, all right, let's go. How far do we have to go? About 30 feet. All right.
Well,
You're stopped by the time you stopped at the same time you started.
There's just some weirdness because like they could have made the decks longer or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's watch it sometime and you'll see that like the numbers that they show them flying by will like go like from 30 to 40, then back to 30, then 70, and then you know. Another fun fact is speaking of that, if that's actually in the neck of the Enterprise, I saw somebody do a breakdown of how wide the neck of the Enterprise would actually be, based off of like the measurements of the ship, 6 meters. And from if you're looking at the back of the back of the Enterprise and you look at the neck, 6 meters.
So just to be clear, we're calling the neck what connects the
saucer section,
the saucer to the engineering with the cells.
Yes.
So
yes,
6 meters. Huh?
You know, it's an elegant looking ship, but the proportions aren't right for things like that. And they've tried to make things look better. I think that's why the Enterprise D has like the giant neck to it.
Yeah, and the giant saucer.
Yeah.
Well, of course, the D also had to be bigger because it had families on board too. So, and it had more of what we'd expect an actual exploration vessel to have, all the science labs and everything. And I think, because the A was almost like a warship that happened to do some exploration sometimes. But I think it also comes down to the way the Federation is presented in the original series. It's very much a military organization. Whereas by the Next Generation, it's still military because the command structure, but you definitely get the impression that the science folks have more of a control. Well, except for the episode The Drumhead.
You know, as I say, this just goes to show that the fifth movie, while it's still important to watch, it's still one that I've watched multiple times. There's just not a lot there. I mean, it's unfortunately, I think, it's still better than, I still prefer it over the motion picture. The motion picture is just a giant glamour shot of the Enterprise. I mean, the fact that you spend 4 or 5 minutes just looking at the outside of this model.
So the motion picture is a lot more like 2001: A Space Odyssey than the rest of the Star Trek franchise.
But like I said, it's a toss-up between the first and the fifth one on which one I think is the worst of the original 6. They're still entertaining. Don't get me wrong. They still
Are they both better than Insurrection?
Insurrection is my least favorite Star Trek movie of all time, and that includes all of the J.J. Abrams.
Harsh, Jim. That's harsh.
And the only reason why is because Insurrection is more like an episode of The Next Generation. It is not a movie. There's just so much ignorance behind it, and I don't know.
Doesn't that one also have the 40 and 50-year-olds getting it on?
Possibly.
Because Riker shaves the beard. That's where it all went wrong. So Riker lost the beard in that one. Because we all know the Next Generation gets much better once Riker acquires the beard.
But I think that when we move on to Star Trek 6, everything is made better. Again, it's we get back to it. You know, a really good story, good special effects, ship-to-ship combat, reuse of the same models again. I mean, the Enterprise model, I believe, was reused for every of the original 6 and going on. And in 6, they get to actually bring back the Excelsior model as well.
Yeah.
Which has now been dubbed from an NX, which is a experimental designation, to now the USS. Or the NCC. Well, we're...
Yeah, that's pretty much everything I wanted to say on the movies.
So we got 2 hours in on this just about.
That's all right.
So, if you guys can sit through and listen to all this, definitely comment on that.
I'll probably break it up in editing. So.
Even then, if they won't watch part 1, part 2, or if we break it into 6 parts.
Yeah, I'll probably. Well, folks, depending on how you're watching this, I have either broken it up per movie or per like chunks of time or something, or I have just let it go. Because there's one really long video we did one time that I broke up into 3 parts, but then I also posted just the whole full length thing. I'll get it right here in a second. And that might be what I do here. I post the individual segments and then post the full length with the timestamps or something. But at any rate, if you're watching the full length one, or if you just watched one of the others, or since I'm probably just going to take this scene right here and slap it at the end of each of the videos, so I don't have to record this 6 times. It's a little editing trick for those who don't know. Thank you for watching. Definitely comment down the bottom. Do you want to see more of us talking about the others? Any particular part of these you might want to know more about? Want to know about like other random movies that DeForest Kelly, Leonard Nimoy, or William Shatner are in by any chance? We can talk about Night of the Lepus. You want to hear about giant rabbits terrorizing Texas? I think it's Texas.
Or if you want to know more about obscure video formats like the one shown here.
Yeah. I'll be able to dig up a Betamax somewhere. But just let us know. You want to hear about the other Star Trek stuff. Once Strange New World Season 2 comes out, we'll probably do a video once all the episodes are out. We might do weekly things, but that's probably a little taxing on our schedule. So we'll probably do a wrap-up once they're all out. But otherwise, thanks again for watching. Comment. But otherwise, like, share, subscribe, all that fun YouTube stuff. But otherwise, make it so.
Engage.
Engage. That's better. We'll go with that.